Cars that made the 90s, Part 2, Sports and Performance. We've got racy hot hatches and a rowdy Toyota Supra on the way in Parts 3 and 4, but for this episode we're jumping into a VW Corrado G60 to meet driving enthusiast Steve and his Lotus Elise 111S. It wasn't hard to spot on the driveway, but neither was this Porsche 964 owned by David, who we're going to speak to later on.
The standard Elise had the K-series engine. The 111S had the VVC engine with the close ratio gearbox. So the brake horsepower went from about 118 up to 143. So, and it's also a bit torquier. So you're not in and out of the gears all the time. Came with leather as standard. And that's really the only difference, just called the 111S. Well, the guy that designed it had a Ferrari Dino, so the scoops are from a Dino and the rear lights. And it was also a totally new concept, because believe it or not, it's stuck together with glue. So it's not welded together, it's stuck together with aviation adhesive. So it was the first time a car, I think, had ever been built like that. So it's got an aluminium tub, and then everything's bolted or stuck onto it. So in fact, inside you can see the glue. But it was that different that you were getting in it, and you were there was no other car that was like it, with the bare aluminium, with no powered steering, with no ABS. Certainly no aircon and no electric windows, but that was the love of it. You know, that was why people wanted one. I mean, I haven't been in this car since September, and I just get in it and it just fits. You know, it's just like that leather jacket or a pair of jeans, and that's the joy of it. There's no weight, 750 kilos they weigh, with me in it and a full tank of petrol. So there's nothing for it to, there's no heavy rear end that's going to get out of control. So when you're driving it around country roads, where we've just been, it's just a dream. I think we had the best cars in the 80s, 90s. And we had the best opportunity to drive those cars. I just love driving fast, in a sort of controlled way. I just love the exhilaration of driving, and of, if you like, taking a corner. And that road, I've been up and down it dozens of times, not just today, but just taking the corners differently, seeing how, you know, which ways to go fast around the corner. And this car is perfect for that. So, yeah, it just gives me a buzz. I just love cars, and I like reading about cars. I like driving cars. Pretty boring, really, but I don't like modern cars. I don't like electric cars, but cars of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they're the cars. They're the cars.
David just so happened to have his own Lotus Elise alongside an Audi S2 from the 90s. In another barn we spotted a Lotus Exige, a kit car from when he was 19, and even a Sinclair C5 tucked away in the corner.
It's a 1993 Porsche 911 Carrera 2 964 edition. It's just a nice cruisy car. Easy to drive, they've got long gearing, a torquey engine, which sounds glorious, and everything's original. The engine hasn't been taken apart or anything like that. It's original clutch, and it's done about 160,000 miles now, many of which we've done, and it just keeps on going. So it's a great car. I bought it because it was cheap. Back in the day when I bought it, it was the cheapest 911 you could buy, and then obviously Singer got hold of them and started producing these amazing creations out of a 964, and then the prices have been dragged up by that. But to me, the shape of it is the iconic 911 shape, the way that the back goes down, the headlights are at the right angle. I think there was a big push by the manufacturers to have cool looking cars. So I think you had sort of things like the Cosworths and the 205 GTIs, the Golf GTIs, and I think that all the manufacturers felt they needed to produce a sporty version of their car to appeal to the younger people, and so it definitely those sort of cars exploded onto the scene, and then all the other manufacturers reacted, and we had really a good choice of cars that you could drive back in the day. For me, much of it's nostalgia, driving the older cars, it winds the clock back to a simpler time, really. It takes you back to that bit, so I always drive any of them with a smile on my face. I think they're great.
Nice.
If you've got a story from the 90s, tell us about it in the comments and keep an eye out for part 3, where we're going to focus on hot hatches.